Oh my gosh. I'm going to give the most traditional pastor answer, which is like the incarnation is so cool.
Christmas is important for Christians because it is the festival in which we celebrate God's incarnation. That is, that God becomes human to join humanity in all that we experience.
So there was one time I was at a Christmas Eve service and we were doing communion, and Lutherans believe really strongly in the presence of Christ in communion, and I was really struck by this is such a cool moment in the church that people really get, but the fact that Christmas is that times a million, where God came to earth in a humble little baby.
And that is a unique aspect of Christianity in terms of its place in world religions, and it's the core of the faith, the fact that God becomes one of us. That's where the word Emmanuel comes from, God with us.
And that means so much for how much God cares for the world and for each of us, for our bodies and our souls. And I think Christmas encapsulates all that.
And so Christmas is the festival that marks that historic event in the birth of Jesus Christ. And because that's at the center of the Christian faith, it's a really important festival for Christians to mark on an annual basis. The thing that makes Christmas special at Valpo is the role that music plays in this community.
When we're talking about Christmas at Valpo, you have to start with the Vespers service, which is our choirs, our orchestra, our band, and our worship team come together to do this great concert/worship service.
There are so many musicians on this campus and people so diligent about their craft. And Christmas and music so go together. There are concerts that happen before the semester ends, and the high point for me is the Vespers event.
People in the community, alumni, and just people who come here say that's how they start the Christmas season, is by coming and hearing great music and singing some carols together.
With hearing the biblical story of the birth of Jesus, we get hundreds of people here at the chapel by candlelight.
I think that's one of the most powerful things we do here at Valpo.
So that's a really important, treasured aspect of Christmas at Valpo.
The students are gone, but we do have a Christmas Eve service in our smaller chapel it's at 10 p.m., so it's that late night feeling with the candles, and people from the community come. It's just this really quiet, intimate service, and I think it's a beautiful way to celebrate Christmas together. Advent holds this special time where you focus on all the ways we long for God.
Advent is to Christmas what Lent is to Easter. So it's a preparatory season. It's 4 weeks long. There are 4 Sundays of Advent.
I think it's a chance to be really honest about the doubts we have or the suffering we go through, and to bring that before God and say, God, we really want you to fix this.
The readings and the tone of the season have kind of a very contemplative, maybe even foreboding, but sort of anticipatory sense.
And I think Advent honors that part of us, and then also pulls us towards the hope of Christmas, where God does actually start responding to our needs.
And so we'll hear the story of the Gabriel's visit to Mary. We'll hear the story on the 4th Sunday of Advent this year of the angel's visit to Joseph in a dream.
God did that not only that one time in Bethlehem when Jesus was born, but God continues to show up in our lives and answer our questions and help us through our times of suffering.
But it's a contemplative time. It's a time to be paying attention to the things that matter most, and try to guard yourself against sort of the hype of the commercialization of Christmas and the consumption of Christmas, and be a little bit more quiet, even as you anticipate the joy of Christmas. Christmas traditions in our family are really focused on church, so being in worship on especially Christmas Eve has been a really important tradition in our family.
So I have only been married for 3 years. So we're sort of forming our traditions, but one thing we do that's really strange is get a puzzle every year and spend time doing that puzzle together. We'll come back from church and just spend an hour eating some good food and doing a puzzle and spending time together.
And Christmas Eve usually involves some kind of a meal that is you can make happen in a slow cooker, like chili is frequently the choice, because you can get that going before church and eat it after church and make it work when you're coming and going.
I am such a church person that for me, Christmas, I love being in worship and singing carols and celebrating that together. So I'm really thankful that that's something that's part of my job.
And then another cherished tradition that's particular to our family is we borrowed or we inherited from my mother's Quebecois family. My mom grew up in Quebec, where there's a Christmas tradition of making a meat pie called tourtière, which is pork, in seasoned pork with sage and other spices. And so she gave that recipe to Tracy. And so we make tourtière in our home. And one of the fun things about tourtière, you got to make it in wintertime. It doesn't always work around here because there's a need to cook the meat ahead of time and then have it chilled. And usually in Quebec, in Canada, that involves taking the whole pot and putting it in a snowbank while it chills, while you work on the pie crust side of things. So usually there's a pot of meat sitting outside somewhere at our place, even if there isn't any snow at Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Valpo. Have a great break. Get some rest, and we'll see you in the new year.
I wish you every joy of the season, Valpo. I wish you peace and a restful Christmas break, and I wish you a very Merry Christmas.